Welcome to the Story Tinker podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of stories, mainly from Webtoon. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep in every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. We also interview people working in creative industries. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We're really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, follows, comments, and ratings on all platforms. Thanks for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. Okay, so episode 2, Kaer Morhen. So we start out with, we're going to talk about Yen and Fringilla first and their whole story. So it opens up with a dream. Yen is, well, we're not sure if it's reality, but she dreams of herself having a baby with Geralt. She obviously expresses something that her unconscious wants, whether or not she wants to admit it or not. But she wants another baby. Well, she does. She knows she wants a baby, but she kind of pretends she doesn't want Geralt. And
yeah. I said, yeah, she definitely pretends she doesn't want him, but she does want him.
Yeah. And the baby bursts into flames, and then she sees a woman in a red cloak holding it. And she's like, give it to me, give it to me. And the baby is crying. The baby has purple eyes like her, but it has elven ears, which I still don't get the meaning of exactly, except for the fact that they're going to have this whole giant interaction with elves. I mean, we know that Yennefer is quarter elf, but anyway. So she wakes up and she sees that they're in a cart. They're tumbling along, and Fringilla is right next to her. She's still in the middle of dreaming, and she's like, don't touch me, don't touch me. And she doesn't want to touch her. But as soon as she said that, I was like, she was raped. I knew that. And because that's like a traumatized response. So it gives you right away more sympathy for Fringilla, because Fringilla has done a lot of like bad things, right? You know, she's just been relentlessly pursuing, destroying everybody. So yeah, this does give you more sympathy for her. And as does the fact that she's captured also now, along with Yen. They're tumbling along in this cart. They've been captured by elves. And she actually, I think she does tell her, I thought it was a different episode, but apparently it's now. She tells her that when King Fergus was overthrown, the mages were captured, by the usurper. And they were put together in this like house, and they were playthings. So obviously they were not treated. And I think, this is part of where Fringilla feels abandoned by the Brotherhood, because the Brotherhood didn't do anything to save those mages who were under the usurper's control. So it's understandable that she has even more resentment against the Brotherhood and doesn't feel connected to them and feels fine using, dark magic and not aligning by their rules. And it also can tell you why she feels a debt of gratitude towards the White Flame, Emhyr, who was, who threw over the usurper and like kind of went back onto the throne. And but I still feel like we're going to see more about why she's so obsessed with Emhyr. What do you think?
I honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea.
I kind of see him as this kind of Manson-esque figure. He's obviously very charismatic, and there's just that something about him that if you are in the right frame of mind, in the right place, that people are just kind of drawn to him, magnetic, and will just do what he says. Again, true crime nerd, but yeah, very that kind of, you know what I mean, that kind of people will just follow him, even if a regular person would say, no, that's not quite right. If you are pushed to your extremes, you're in a bad place. And she obviously was, because, she must have been fairly broken coming out of did they call it the playhouse or something?
Yeah.
But coming out of a situation like that, I suppose you will just see whoever it is that saves you as, your complete and utter savior, unquestionably. Yeah,
that's a good way of describing it, because I kept on waiting for like, why? What's the reason? But the way you said it, that's sufficient. Yeah, and she has like saying faith. She's like, oh, our faith will save us. Yen's like, we don't need faith. We have power, which obviously is ironic that she doesn't. But let's show Yen. Yen definitely tried to fill the void in her life through power. She was unloved as a child. She endured miserable circumstances. She had it very hard, even in Aretusa. And she obviously chose to be beautiful because she wanted that as well. But she definitely relied on power as a very big source of her identity. And which is why it's such a big deal later on. I think that was actually perfect. I know it was a change. Anyway, okay, we'll get into it later. Anyway, so as of now, she's still in the, captured the Meridian, blah, blah, blah. So she can't use it. And they see they're captured by elves. And we find out that Francesca became queen when Filavandrel, who we met before, led an uprising against Queen Calanthe and failed, was put down, which we know from the last episode that it was brutally put down. And, Queen Calanthe has this whole side to her that Ciri didn't know about, which is shocking because she's the loving grandmother, but now she finds out she's the elf murderer. So very fascinating in its own right. And yes, so now Francesca is queen. And Fringilla is trying to, they're trying to save their butts. And Fringilla's like, oh, we have the same enemy. we have nothing, we don't have anything against the elves. And Francesca's like, shut up, basically. And Yen is like, this is how you treat she's so obnoxious. She's like, is this how you treat your own? And she says some stuff in Elder, and they're like, girl, you don't have elf heirs. You didn't cry for Elven. You don't.
But you can't go claiming that the one little quarter part of you when you think it's important. You can't. You did not live your life like this.
Yeah,
you can't just go and be like, yeah, but I'm a quarter. Like that ain't shit. Like you didn't feel our struggles. You're not ostracized the same way. You're not. Like, don't. Like you can't do that. Yeah. So I get Francesca's like, nope, that doesn't, that's obnoxious, but you just said no. But it's one of those things. I have a love-hate kind of outlook on Yennefer. Like there are times where I'm like, okay, I can get down with her, but then there are other times where I'm like, she's just so arrogant that I just don't really know. I just like, why do people like her? She's so arrogant, full of herself.
I didn't like her at all last season until the Battle of Sodden, when she did something good and she stopped being like selfish and nasty, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna try to save everybody. That was the turning point for me. I really did not like her until then, especially when she betrayed Istrid like that and was nasty to him. I was like, girl, why are you doing that? He loves you. Like he was the only one who was nice to you. He didn't care about how you looked at all. He loved you for who you are. And like, you're just insulting him in his deepest, like you're calling his passions trash. And like, I was so put off by it when she did that. But I liked when she did that in Battle Sudden, I started liking her again. And she's a complicated person. Yeah, she has a lot of acerbic elements to her. And she, like you said, the arrogance, the jabs. But she does things later on that make me like her more. But yeah. So yes, Francesca's like, and another thing also that Francesca is like, yeah, whatever, just hang them up, right? We don't need them. Like, why are they alive? Which, and to me, I didn't like that at all. There's so much racism and unnecessary hate in this world, right? And the elves have been persecuted, right? And the elves are looked down upon. Like, why are you perpetuating that? It's understandable, right? That when you're hated and you're ostracized, you do that in effect to everyone else around you, right? But it's like they're just too random. For all I know, they didn't do anything to the elves, right? They're just random people. Why would you kill them? It's just like perpetuating the cycle of like, oh, you kill us randomly, which is like other people do, but not Yen and Fringilla, right? And then like, we'll just kill you. It's this whole endless cycle of like hating each other.
Again, like if you're not me, you're other. And if you're other, you have no value. If you have no value, what's the point of you even being alive?
And I just want
that's like the whole mindset of pretty much everyone, everyone's mindset within the Witcher world is you're us or you're
Yeah, I thought it was good that they showed that the elves also have this mindset because, they could have just portrayed the elves as like this persecuted species and downtrodden and everyone hates them. And they do show that aspect very, very strongly. But they also show that the elves themselves are just as prejudiced and, killer hungry as everyone else. Like,
Mhm.
I think with
Yeah.
the with the just hang them because they're useless. A lot of that is practicality from his point of view as well. Every time we see the elves, their resources are extremely limited, and prisoners cost a lot in resources.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't see them as being any use or any value at all, why should he spend those precious resources?
And
Yeah.
also, if they let them go, they can give away their location
That's it.
else and cause trouble. So they're like, might as well just do. That's the easiest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like,
he's just looking at it, pragmatically.
yeah.
well, could have let them go. But anyway, I have to say, I love the elf design. They're all so beautiful with their long hair. They look beautiful. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really fall into that like elf trope really well.
Yeah.
It's nice. So basically, Philibandrel is, he's kind of worried about Francesca, and he says, like, we've been digging here for a long time and we haven't found anything. Like, we're attracting attention and like we're putting ourselves in danger by digging here. And Francesca is determined. She's like, no, we're gonna find this place called Dol Blathanna. And she says that the white robed one came to her in a dream and told her we're gonna find Dol Blathanna. And Yennefer overhears this because she also had a dream with a red robed one. And then when, later on we see them tied to a tree and the elves are singing and Yen tells Fringilla, hey, we both had this dream. And Fringilla's like, yeah, I did too. I had a black robed figure come to me. So, and she's like, shared dreams are a big omen. So Yennefer stores this away. She's going to use it later. And she tries to tell Philibandrel, hey, we've had these dreams. And, she tries to like, obviously, again, sweet talk their way into surviving, save their butts. And at that, Philibandrel, I love this interaction. He's like, you were close, but you haven't reached the cunning of your father. Like your father's raised the elves, because elves are very, right, and persuasive. And while they're having this interaction, the elves find something, and Francesca calls them. And they go down this tunnel. They see these runes that basically show the beginning of the world, like the history before the conjunction of the spheres, because we know that after the conjunction of the spheres, first there were the elves, and then the elves taught humans how to use magic, and then the humans like kicked the elves out. So that's this whole like fight between them. And so they kind of see that depicted on the walls with the coming of the monsters. And then they see this. I guess that's the Dol Blathanna. I guess that's what they found. It's their ancestors worshiping the deathless mother. I think it's supposed to be. They also have beautiful outfits. Skeletons are just, their outfits are well preserved and they're just gorgeous and colorful. I love, like the elves' outfits are just really pretty. Note there. And I had to like reread this a couple of times because it's a lot of like lore thrown in and it was not super clear to me. Did you guys have that issue as well?
Yeah, I mean I think the problem with making the TV series at this point is that there is so much other Witcher stuff. There's books and there's the graphic novels and then there's the games and there is just so much of it. I suppose a bit like the Star Wars universe where keeping it all square is going to be really difficult just because there's so much of it.
Yeah. So I hope I get the details correct. Obviously, if you know something I don't, please tell me. But what I understand. So basically, this door thing opens, and Francesca and Yen and Fringilla all discuss that they've had this visitor, and Fringilla shares with them, which I don't remember how it came up exactly, but she shares with them that her father used to always tell them the story about the hut in the forest with no doors, and it's the myth of Baba Yaga. My husband actually knew the myth. He was like, "Oh, it's Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga," and he was very proud of himself because it's like a Polish myth fairy tale. And they decide they're going down. And, Francesca's like, you got to come with me because we all have the same prophecy. They go down and they all have these visions. And each of them has a vision of a cloaked person, different color. Fringilla is black, Yen is red, and Francesca is white. And Yen sees this girl, also supposed to be like a cute little girl, but very threatening. And she basically tells her like that she was never happy and she's always trying to fill the void inside her. And she basically taunts her about like her losing her power, which Yen didn't quite realize before, right? Because she was always locked up. But she basically says, you're gonna, even power didn't make you happy, which was super telling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Francesca sees Etheline, who was like this ancient elven prophet, and Fringilla sees Emir. And Emir tells her, like what she wants is she wants to kind of like seek in favor in the eyes of Emir and, help Nilfgaard succeed. But they all realize eventually that it's not actually, this person is actually, they realize it's the witch, it's Baba Yaga. And then she turns into her true form. And she basically tells them, I can give you what you want for a price. And so Francesca wants an elven baby who will actually survive because she's apparently had, several miscarriages before. And there hasn't been a true elven baby born for a long time, which I was confused about. So they just don't have babies anymore. Like they're just surviving very long time. And then when they die. Like is no one's having any babies. Like
I thought it was how would I describe it? Like a natural population control thing, because otherwise if you have these people that have got enormously long lifespans and they are capable of having at least one child a year and they live for hundreds of years, there's going to be such a chronic overpopulation problem kind of very quickly, isn't there? So I always kind of assumed, and the same with like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, that perhaps it's difficult for them to have a baby, just to kind of just as a population control kind of mechanism within the world.
Yeah, and when they say full elven baby, you can tell that there's a lot of half elvens out there.
Yeah.
Like mixed breed children running around, similar to Yennefer and whatnot. And they're like, we haven't had a full one in who knows how long, because having a full one means more, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, they decide to say yes to whatever deal it is that the witch Baba Yaga wanted, and we don't see like the price that she asked for, right? But we know we'll find out later a little bit more about her, so I guess we'll leave it for later. But you could figure evil witch, she ain't giving stuff away for free. You know that there's got to be something in it for her. We don't know yet what. But Yennefer refuses. She wakes up and she sees that Fringilla is walking along with Nilfgaard. She decides that they are going to collaborate, going to work together. And Yennefer has not agreed to anything. So now she ends off, she realizes she tries to use her power. She tries to, it looks like, create a portal, and nothing's happening. And she's just running in the forest and she's screaming. And it is magnificent because Yennefer, like I said before, her soul, her best sense of herself, the part she really liked herself for, was her power. And she used that to compensate for everything. She used it to compensate for parental love. She used it to compensate for romantic love. She used it to compensate for friends. She has nothing but her power. She doesn't have relationships. She doesn't have support, anything. Her power was the only thing she relied on, and now it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the only time that I really felt something for her. Like it was a very well done scene, because it made her feel more human, because it was the first time you've seen her really broken.
Mm-hmm.
Like in all other, when she's captured, she's like, fuck this, I'm just gonna leave somehow. I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna leave. But here she was free, And she felt so trapped still. So trapped because she didn't have any power.
Mhm.
I think as well, she's the big scream. The only thing that I could think about then was, don't make a big noise like that because you've already been captured twice. Someone's gonna come and fight, or a monster is gonna pop out of the ground, or but obviously she's so distraught that hasn't occurred to her at all. She just, I'm done. It's kind of big I'm done energy, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the end of that arc with them. And the other half of the episode focuses on Geralt and Ciri. So it's called Kaer Morhen because Geralt and Ciri come to Kaer Morhen, and you see it, it's nestled in the mountains, it's this big castle, there's snow, it's really nice. And he comes in and you really get that sense like he's coming home. Witchers are reported to have no emotions, but like the second he comes in, everyone's hugging, everyone's greeting. It's so loving, and it's such a beautiful return. It's like, past this lie, witchers obviously have emotions.
Yeah, and then Ciri's just standing there like, anyone? Hi, I'm here. Anyone gonna acknowledge me? No one's gonna do introductions. Well, I'm just gonna
Awkward.
kind of like move around a little over this way. I was like, dang, they have no social skills, these witchers.
They really don't. They're portrayed to be very like bachelory, like they're just much
I was just about to say the same thing. They're kind of they're very laddish, aren't they?
Right. They're probably really old, but they're not very mature. That is
yes.
Yeah, it's like when you get a bunch of like people you grew up with and you're so comfortable with, all together, all of a sudden you revert back to that person you were when they were the most important to you in your life.
That's true.
When they were the most like the most influential. Like when I'm with my cousins, I sure as shit do not adult at all.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
They've obviously been through so much trauma together as well, because they were children, weren't they? And then they get turned into witches, which is supposed to be traumatic enough. And then when they, go out into the big bad world and they start doing their job, then that's going to be a whole slew of trauma on trauma, isn't it? So they're going to form these bonds just because it's the only kind of safety net that they have, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else treats them, like we said, like shit. Like they're regarded as monsters as well. And this is the only place where they can be non-judged.
Yeah, they got nothing else. It's there or nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, like I didn't know that they had that kind of support system. I mean, it's great to know that they have that support system. I just didn't know they had that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least once a year that they can all get together and be there for each other. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like the concept.
That's a nice little thing that they do, a little annual gathering that they do of recovering.
I really like the concept that they have like a winter holiday. They're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna take the winter off because there ain't no monsters in the winter. So
right?
That's right.
All the monsters hibernate.
So they just like leave the world to ruin for 3 months while we get drunk and hang out, and we'll come and deal with it in spring.
Yeah.
Maybe monsters hibernate a little more during the winter. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, oh, the monsters hibernate because they're like,
time for a big nap.
So speaking of monsters, we have one of the witchers named Eskel coming back, and he's a little late, and he comes in, he's like with a lot of pomp and circumstance. He's like, I just fought with the Leshy for 6 hours, and the Leshy got me, and I couldn't get her, but I got her hand. And I lost my way home, whatever, but I'm here. And everyone's so excited and greets him, and Vesper says, which is kind of a bit of foreshadowing, he's like, you didn't remember that the way to kill a Leshy is through fire, through the heart? And he's like, oops, whatever. And, everyone's kind of laughing, and Fury laughs also. And he's like, who are you, punk? Why are you laughing at me? And she's like, I'm Princess Sibylla of Cintra. Who are you? Who are you?
Everyone's like, oh, you're my princess. I guess it's so much of an asshole.
Yep. So that kind of sets up an antagonistic relationship because a little bit later, Ciri is like looking for a room. She's wandering around the castle and he sees her looking for a room and he's like, all the rooms are going to be like shit because you're used to a fancy castle. Though. This is not what we have. You're a spoiled princess, basically. It's pretty antagonistic to her. I kind of thought that Eskel was going to be set up to be this bad guy and antagonistic character for a long time, but that didn't happen. So.
I knew he was going to be this episode's monster.
Yeah. Oh, how'd you know?
Yeah. Because of the way he came in. I don't know why.
He just had this kind of it was like they made him immediately unlikable, yeah, and so and therefore disposable. That's kind of what you either want to be wearing a red shirt where you're completely inconsequential, or you want to be someone that there's not a lot of investment in, perhaps a little bit of background, but you think, well, he's a bit of a dick, so you don't really, I got that immediately. I was like, I don't know, something's up with him, and especially as he didn't know how to kill the big the Leshy. Yeah. I was like, something is going down.
Said he was wounded.
Yeah.
When he said he was wounded by the Leshy, but he wasn't showing anyone his wound.
Yeah. I saw he taps it. He taps his shirt.
So
he also says the Leshy wasn't
going to be a monster.
Right. He says there was something weird about the Leshy that was different than other Leshies. So that's a hint to this whole monster Ciri thing, which we'll come to later on. So but anyway, Geralt and Ciri are having this conversation, and she tells him that she hates the Black Knight and she wants to get trained because she wants to kill the Black Knight. And he tells her that we kill to save lives. We don't kill out of fear. And she's like, well, but you just told me I have to I can't let the fear get the better of me. I have to conquer it. And he still says that you have to do it for the right reasons. And she also tells him, I think it's here that she tells him about the knight. I forgot the knight's name. The knight that took her out of Cintra that got shot right away by an arrow by the Black Knight. I forgot his name, but I think it was this guy who told her, less than perfection is death. So she is, it's a big thing for her because she's terrified, she's traumatized, and she wants to get the skills to fight back and get back at the people that destroyed everything for her. She doesn't want to be helpless anymore. And Geralt is not yet ready to train her. He's not yet ready to pass that over because, he's bad and he doesn't know how to do that. It's like he doesn't see her in that way. And also, big thing, his Witcher training turned him off of Witcher training forever. He doesn't want to put anyone else through that. And, we learned throughout the episode that there's no more new Witchers because of the destruction of Kaer Morhen back in, it's in the anime, The Nightmare of the Wolf. Basically, when Geralt was a kid, this whole long story, really cool story, and the Kaer Morhen was sacked, and all the mutagens that they used to make new Witchers were destroyed. So no new Witchers have been created, and that's why the numbers are dwindling. And it's a really big issue for the world and for the Witchers because they're gone, and especially for Vesemir because he's their dad. So but I think that's another reason that Geralt doesn't want to train her because his own training was so brutal. He doesn't want to do that to anyone else.
Yeah, and perhaps doesn't want her to be resigned to a life of being different, being shunned as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough. She tells him at some point, I don't remember if it's in this episode, but she tells him I want to be like you. And he's like, why? Why would I want to be like me?
Yeah.
But that's a great credit, if your kid tells you they want to be like you. I mean, whoa, it's the biggest compliment you could ever get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, now,
And then
yeah, what happens next? What happens next will surprise you, and it will. Now, Geralt goes on and on about like, oh, this is so secret. Nobody knows where Kaer Morhen is. We stay apart from the rest of the world. And he comes downstairs and we're having this giant party. And Eskel has found himself some ladies, or he's hired some ladies. And they're all like dancing around naked, which I think is pretty much the only nudity in this in the season. And they're all having themselves a great time. And Geralt's like, well, what's going on? Like, I thought we don't bring anybody to our secret hideout. And he's like,
yeah.
yeah. Vespera's like, oh, they'll forget
Oh my
by
God, I guess life changes.
Right. So that's another very frat boy thing. It's like, really?
It was so frat boy. It was so frat boy. I was like, look at it was very, I mean, to me, it's like their training is like hazing.
Yeah.
And then they bring all these whores in, and it's like, all right, so no more rules. There are rules, but no more rules.
There are rules, but they don't apply. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very mature, you know, like having sex is normal. And we know that Geralt has visited, you know, prostitutes before, but he's kind of done that in the privacy of his own room, you know, or like a rented room. Like to be like that in public is not very, I don't know, respectful or whatever. So,
And within their home.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like bring horrors back to your home.
With the teenager.
Whether your home is supposed to be a secret or not is not a good thing.
Yeah. So, and we could, you know,
Yeah.
we're told that Eskel is the one who initiated it. So that already gives, you know, that continues to give Eskel a bad rap, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, he's in pain because of his wound. So that's why he's like drinking a lot. And that's why he's, you know, lapsing in judgment. But Vesemir himself is like not really doing anything about it. You know, he's like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, what I did find interesting though, was that Geralt interacts with, the head whore, I guess, the woman who runs the operation, and I love her dress too, by the way. She tells him, she's like, oh yeah, I remember you from a couple of years ago, like I washed basilisk blood out of your hair. And he's like, Wyvern, it was Wyvern blood. Was she the one, by the way, remember when he was with a prostitute and before Temeria, was that her? I thought it was her, but I didn't go back to look.
I think it is. Yeah. Because
Actually, I can't remember.
that whole bit in the bath, isn't there, where she's asking him about all of his scars. Was that her?
Yeah, I think that was her. I guess I should have gone back to season 1 and checked, but whatever, I'll do it at some point. But what I found interesting was that she tells him, she's like, oh, I already have a daughter now. Because everybody's shocked that Geralt has a daughter because he's apparently been, you know, unattached all the time. And she's like, oh, you know, I would love to have her work with me. Like she would have the voice Enoch out of her hand. And he's like, he gets all offended.
He's like, oh.
1 second. Oh, like, so it's good enough for you to hire a whore, but it's not good enough for Ciri to become a whore. It's like so hypocritical. You know, it's like, oh, you can be a whore, but not my daughter.
It's like, I'll employ your services and act like I don't look down on you, but don't you dare do that to my child.
It's very upsetting. It's like, if you do it, don't get mad. Don't get banned. Like, they think that it's a bad profession that your daughter can do. It's just whatever. I mean,
The kind of parenty thing, though, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you've got this kind of like, well, I do this for a living and I don't want you to do that for a living because I've had, you know, X, Y, and Z experiences. So no, you won't go and do that, or, you know, you have to go and do this instead. You know, I quite liked it. I thought it was quite funny how he's obviously got an idea about what he's going to do with her, which he hasn't shared with anybody yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not that.
Nope.
Yep. Yeah. So Ciri actually sees the party and she's, you know, she tells girls, I have balls all the time in, you know, Sintra. Well, she probably didn't have these kinds of balls, but she doesn't really seem too shocked. She kind of smiles at, you know, seeing the guys like being more lecherous. And she goes around exploring the castle. Vesemir later says she was spying, but she's exploring. and she sees like
Mhm.
this like display. It's like a mini museum, and Vesemir finds her there, and he gives her a little tour, and he tells her, you know, oh, this is the knife that was used to kill the first Witcher by this demon, and then he's like, oh, this is Deglin's armor, and we saw Deglin in The Nightmare of the Wolf when we see Vesemir's story, and he tells her, you know, he was like a father to me. He told me everything I know, and Ciri's like, oh, like you are to Geralt, which, you know, really drives the theme of like the family, and that the Witchers have their own family going on, not their biological family, but their created family, which is
Mhm.
the Witcher in general. So
I think having that collection, their little kind of their little museum as well, backs up the whole kind of idea that witches don't have emotions is propaganda, because the only reason that you would have those things is kind of sentimentality, isn't it? You know, and honor and things on things like that. If they really had no emotions, then when someone, you know, one of the other witches died, they'd, all right, okay, well, all right, we'll just go on and go kill some more stuff over there. But they don't do that. They've got, you know, all kind of like set up nicely, and it's on a little stand, and you know, they're telling stories about it. So like you say, they have got a family unit, and it just kind of, yeah, I think the witches have no emotions is like a propaganda thing, isn't it? Yeah, they keep saying that for whatever reason, to keep the witches away from the humans or whatever. But yeah, I think that was quite a nice illustration of it.
Yeah, I do wonder why they want the world to think that they have no emotions, and why they want the Witchers themselves to think that they don't have emotions. Because they believe they have no emotions. Even when they're showing it, they're like, this can't be an emotion. I'm not supposed to feel this, so this is obviously not emotion.
I think you get that a lot with certainly with like armed forces and things, though, don't you? Where they don't want you to be showing, they don't want you to be showing emotion, because it's kind of viewed upon as a weakness, isn't it? So if they have no emotions, or suppress their own emotions, then they're not going to be seen the same way, are they? You know, these witches, they're completely fearless because they don't get scared or whatever.
And my husband's theory was that they pretend they don't have emotions because it makes it better for them to negotiate. Because if they would have emotions, then, you know, villagers or whatever could appeal to them and say, hey, you know, this monster is killing all of our babies, like, please help us. And they're like, we don't care. So then they are forced to pay them, you know, handsomely. So he thinks that they perpetuated it for that reason.
Do you think it's the witches that want to be viewed that way, or do you think it's the humans that kind of perpetuated it? It's difficult to tell, isn't it?
It's like one of those catch-22s that they're stuck in. At this point, like, even if they wanted to like try to show some form of emotion, I mean, no one's just going to believe them. And so they're just like, well, if no one's going to believe me, so like, might as well just keep doing me and like not giving a fuck.
Right. It does allow them to be much more, it gives them more freedom to not be accountable to regular mortals if they do that. And they have a reputation of being like mercenaries, right? In season 1, you see it a lot. They're like, oh, you just do it for the money. So I think, you know, maybe you could say the Witchers have been, but you see it in The Nightmare of the Wolf, especially, like Vesemir is not concerned with anything except money, and he's not a good guy in for most of the movie, a lot of the times. But, you know, I think they do have this reputation as just being like boors and only there for the money. So anyway, now we get into the central conflict of this story is, you know, Eskel goes off with this Witcher, with this prostitute, and they're like having sex, and
but you forgot about the fight between Eskel and Geralt. Like, he started that fight, which then made he was like, go to bed. It was very like fatherly. Like, you're being a shit, go to bed.
Yep.
Go to sleep now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I knew, like, oh, for sure, some shit's gonna go down with this dude, because he's just out of nowhere starting a fight with Geralt. Like, why?
Mm.
Like, why? What is he trying to do right now? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you're a drunk mess, whatever. But why?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. And then he's like, go to bed, and they go off to like go have sex somewhere.
Yeah, and you kind of like, yeah, you get an ominous sense, and then a little bit later, you suddenly hear this like pounding, and you know the witches are like, "Stop! Like, what's going on?" And they're pounding again, and they're like, "Okay, something's going on." They, put the prostitutes into the rooms. I love this part where because Lambert comes running into Siri's room, and he's like, and she's like, "What do you think you're doing? You're like, you can't just run into a girl's room with pointing a sword." It's like, it's hilarious. I love her. I don't
Out. I was like,
she
that
was
was
great.
amazing.
Yeah, she was great.
Okay, you just go, well, I'm just doing my job.
Do your job out there.
They have no social
Please.
skills. They definitely are a bunch of frat boys. They don't have social skills. They're like just a bunch of guys living with each other. They don't know how to talk to women. They don't know how to talk to little girls. They're just like rough and tough, like just things. So genuinely confused.
Why didn't it was hilarious. I love those little comedic like inputs every so often, just to take the seriousness out of the show.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is a very serious fantasy, dark fantasy. So, you gotta have that little bit of comedy just to keep that bit of lightness, or else it's just all gonna feel so dark and heavy, and then you're just like,
The writers, some of the kind of throwaway lines that they put in are just, they come out of nowhere, and they're brilliant, aren't they? I really like the writing in this. Yeah, so it's nice to have that kind of little bit of levity, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so the prostitutes are hiding out in her room, and eventually, we see Geralt battling with the Leshy, and first you just think it's like Leshy, but anyway, then you find out. But meanwhile, the prostitutes decide, the main prostitute's like, I'm not sticking around. I don't care. Geralt might be dead by now. We're leaving. Witchers fight, we run, and they leave. Which I like her. I like how she has.
I was like, that's the worst idea ever. You're all just gonna die if you do that. So, but they didn't. So I was like, oh, well, that actually worked out for them. It's good. Their running worked.
Presumably, but yeah, we didn't see them get killed.
Yeah.
So.
I liked how the madam was quite motherly, wasn't she? She was like, come on, yeah, all right, everybody, we're going now. And tried to get Ciri to go as well. Yeah, I thought it was, again, going back to the kind of the family thing again, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, madams within like whorehouses and whatnot, I mean, that's their role, is to just take care of her girls.
Yeah.
It's like, they take care of them, they make sure that they're safe, because they know that the profession that they're in is awful and dangerous and can get them killed.
Yeah.
Somehow, because not every John is a good guy. So
yeah.
And so you have to have a madam that really is like, these are my girls, I will watch their asses and I will take care of them, and they will continue to work for me as a result. And then I'll just, so I get it. I mean, I get why she's like that. She has to take care of them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's nice. She's well-rounded. They're not like just throwaway characters. They actually have some personality.
Yeah.
So all the witchers are roaming the castle trying to find, whatever's causing this disturbance. And Geralt and Vesemir find Eskel, and Eskel has mutated into this tree leshy thing. And he does talk a little bit. He says, I thought I could fight it. I thought I could get help. I thought you could help me. And then he's like basically gone. Like he just can't control himself. He's not really human anymore. And he just tries to kill Geralt, and then he tries to kill Vesemir, and he's got Vesemir in this like chokehold. And, you know, Vesemir tries to talk to him. He tries to like tell him, escalate. He tries to like wake up the humanity, but he really is not, he's not there anymore. And Geralt makes a decision and he, you know, heats up his sword and plunges it into his heart and kills Eskel. Fleshy.
Well, that kind of answers some of our questions earlier about monsters, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the differences between monsters and animals. But in this case, it was like a parasite, wasn't it? Because he
It was
got that.
definitely a parasite.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
weird.
it was very parasitic. And then it's like you get to the point where it's like when does the parasite completely take over?
Yeah.
Take away all of the humanity, and it's like, can you save someone from that?
Yeah. And you know, at that point, is he a monster or is he curable? Or, you know, there's all these kind of questions of morality around it, isn't there? But
yeah, because at that point also, I mean, he hadn't killed anyone within his like fleshy form.
No.
So it's not like he was a murderer of innocent people, but they also knew that if he stayed alive, he would become one. But it's like, kill to prevent, or do you kill as a reaction?
Yeah.
And they did it to prevent.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of killing Vesemir. I mean, Vesemir would have choked.
Yeah.
Died really quickly if he hadn't killed him. So,
oh yeah, like for sure, he was definitely going to kill. So they prevented that death. But yeah, to like, you know, deem someone a monster before they even had the chance and already know that they're gonna have to kill him.
Yeah.
Well, he tried before.
Yeah.
You know, both of them were not trying to kill Eskel. They were, you know, Vesemir did those chains. He was trying to contain him, probably, and then try to see what he could do afterwards and help him, but it didn't work. But one of the important thing that we learned from this episode, which I'm actually a little disappointed about in terms of later, but we learned from this episode, is that Geralt is willing to kill someone who loves to prevent him from causing harm to others. I didn't really use that theme later on when they could have, but because it seems like it's a really important thing that was shown here, is that Geralt is, you know, he loves Eskel. He was, and we see more in next episode, but he was willing to kill him when he turned into a monster. So, yeah. And then we end off with Geralt realizing he needs to train Ciri and starting to train her because he realizes he can't protect her. He thought he could bring her home and protect her and that this was the safest place he could bring her and she wouldn't have to worry. But turns out she's not safe even in Kaer Morhen, and he's got to train her.
Yeah, she is completely defenseless, and it's like he's just suddenly realized that, isn't it?
Yeah, because whatever power she has, it's completely, for the most part, untapped and uncontrolled. Like, she wouldn't know how to like summon her scream power. It's like, I don't know what that power is.
So, I got scream power, the power of screams.
Yeah, she doesn't know. Like, all she has to do is like, you know, scream at some insanely high pitch, and everything around her just gets destroyed. So.
Thank you so much to my current patrons: Susie Lady Libris, Lily Jenny Haley, Maria Molly Veronica, Emily Jo Rochelle, Saucy Tuggles Meg and Rose, Priya Alexa Misty, Laura Joanne Patty, Emilza Esther and Watching You People, Doris Poppy Seed Marie Jen, Emily Jean Jen, Erin, DK Lily, Becca Stranda, Christine, and Sadie. Your support is truly appreciated.